You're listening to Lucid Cafe. I'm your host, Wendy Halley. I will bet cash money that this is the only podcast in the history of podcasts that covers both the human lymphatic system and chickens. It fits in with not just my goal, but my promise to deliver unique content to you. You're welcome. Today I speak with Hannah Rohloff, who is a licensed massage therapist here in central Vermont, specializing in oncology massage and manual lymph drainage. In this conversation, you'll receive the gift of two very different sides of Hannah: the professional and clinically minded practitioner side, and the adorably enchanted with all things chicken side. We talk about the complexities and importance of the lymphatic system and the joys of being the caretaker of a brood of endearing and entertaining chicken friends. So please enjoy my conversation with the very gifted Hannah Rohloff. Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course.
Really psyched you're here. I wanted to pick your brain about the lymphatic system. I suspect that it's probably extremely important and it doesn't quite get the attention it probably deserves. Why don't you talk a little bit about what you do, and then we'll talk about why the lymphatic system is so important.
Sure. So I am a licensed massage therapist right in Montpelier, Vermont. And I went back to school for massage. It's been over 10 years now. And when I was in massage school, I got really interested in working with people who were either living through cancer treatment or had a history of cancer and needed massage modifications based on fragile health or just body changes after treatment. So in the course of pursuing training in that, I got interested in the lymphatic system because many cancer survivors become aware of their lymphatic system because the trauma from surgery or radiation can damage the lymphatic system. So that's when most people become aware of their lymphatic system, is when it's impaired and suddenly they start noticing changes in their bodies from lymph backing up. So I went on to do additional training in manual lymph drainage. And then I went through a different school who calls it lymph drainage. It's the same thing, but now I can say I do both manual lymph drainage and lymph drainage.
That sounds very French.
The instructor is French, yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he is a DO who is French, and so everything he says lever. You must drain the lever. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. I could probably edit that part out. We'll see. Where to start? How do you even describe what the lymphatic system is?
So, I think most people think of the lymphatic system as like your glorified sewer system. I hate to call it that because to me it's a much more amazing and dynamic and beautiful system. And so just saying it's the waste treatment system of the body. But basically what it is the lymphatic system runs alongside of the circulatory system. And so fluid that leaves the circulatory system in the capillary beds, not to get too complicated, but they used to believe that fluid that left the circulatory system, 90% of it went back into the circulatory system. And now they're saying that, no, that's not true. Most of that fluid actually gets taken back up by the lymphatics. So the lymphatics are taking up all the excess fluid, large proteins, dead cells, bacteria, debris, and moving it through the lymphatic system, through lymph nodes, where the immune system can then target things that it needs to respond to, like bacteria, cancer cells, anything foreign, basically. And then eventually that filtered fluid is returned back into the venous system right before it re-enters the heart.
Okay. It sounds like a very complex system.
Yeah, that was me trying to make it simple.
I'm trying to wrap my head around all the things you just said, but clearly it's really important. Any theories as to why it's not talked about?
I think because it's a hard system to visualize. Like most people are aware of their circulatory system simply because they can feel their heartbeat. You can cut yourself and immediately see blood welling out. You can see your veins under the skin. The lymphatic system is not so easily visualized for people. So it's easy to ignore. And then, honestly, in most people, it works really well. And so, again, it's not a system that's constantly saying, hello, hello, pay attention to me until there's an issue. So most people may be aware, like, oh, sometimes I, feel a little lymph node in my neck when I have a cold. I feel a little lump, it goes away. That's about the extent of how most people interact with their lymphatics.
How many lymph nodes do we have in our bodies?
Oh, you have hundreds.
Me
So,
personally, I have hundreds. Yeah,
yeah, oh yeah, both you and I.
everyone.
The average is 400 to 700. I've seen people say there's probably even more. So yeah, hundreds and hundreds of lymph nodes, most of them in the abdomen, but a lot as well in the neck, armpits, and then the inguinal lymph nodes, right? Sort of along the leg crease is another area where there's a large number of lymph nodes.
What was that word that you just said? Inguinal.
Inguinal?
Inguinal.
It's like fun with
Yes.
lymphatic vocabulary.
So you mentioned cancer as being one instance where someone's attention would be brought to their lymphatic system. Are there other instances other than like when you have a cold or allergies or whatever?
I feel like a lot of people living with chronic health conditions become aware of their lymphatics. Folks with like autoimmune issues, folks living with chronic Lyme disease, fibromyalgia, those types often seem to correlate with maybe having a lymphatic system that's running a little sluggish.
And that's what I was just going to ask you is how would someone even know if their lymphatic system is not running properly? What are the symptoms that people typically notice?
Well, a lot of it's sort of anecdotal, but I feel like what I hear a lot from people who are coming in looking for some lymphatic support is that they just often feel run down. They tend to get every little cold virus that goes around the community, people just feeling like they don't have a robust immune system. Sometimes it's obvious, like people have fluid pooling, which is not always lymphatic. It can be due to circulatory issues as well, but more and more research that's coming out is sort of implying that all fluid issues should be considered lymphatic issues since the lymph system does so much with fluid return. But sometimes people will have, swelling that comes and goes in their legs, feet, often places where gravity is pulling fluid.
What is the connection between lymph and immunity?
So the lymph system and the immune system overlap at the lymph nodes, which again, I'm trying to keep it simple. If the lymph nodes are these sort of specialized areas of lymphatic tissue where white blood cells spend time, where immune reactions can occur, say some bacteria cell enters the lymph node, that's a place where the body would then activate its response to fight off the invader.
Okay, and then what would cause a lymph node to swell?
Usually reacting to the presence of something foreign to the body.
Okay.
So you're seeing a little immune response there. Like that's normal. People freak out over swollen lymph nodes, but that's a sign that your immune system is responding appropriately.
Okay. And what if it stays that way? What if it stays big?
Generally, what I do in my practice is if I have someone with a lymph node that's become chronically enlarged, I always try to not be alarmist, but I refer people back to their health provider. If they have an enlarged lymph node, I find enlarged lymph nodes on people often that they weren't aware of, and I'll just usually bring their attention to it gently and say, I feel a little bit of lymph node enlargement here. If it doesn't go down or go away, it would be something to just mention to your healthcare provider. And then I sort of, as a massage therapist, I have the luxury of punting a lot of things right back to people's naturopaths or primary care providers or whoever they're seeing for their health. And so I do have that luxury of often saying, I don't know why it's enlarged. And if you're concerned about it, talk to someone who has more resources at their fingertips. But yeah, I often find that sometimes people have a lymph node that was enlarged due to something mild that just becomes sort of thickened. My theory would be that maybe it's fibrosed a little bit.
And what do you mean by that?
Just the structure of the lymph node itself has been altered. And so you're always going to feel it a little bit. I have one in my neck that's like that. It's just always there. Unconcerning. It's not anything ominous. It's simply a lymph node that is fatigued. No, I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
It's so tired.
It's so tired. It's just given up. So, I mean, the interesting thing about the lymph system is that, the anatomy of it is known and has been mapped out. But as they're finding less invasive ways to image the lymph system, they are finding that it doesn't necessarily behave the way that we've all been taught for years. So it's really interesting because just in the last few years, every time I attend a conference, it's like, oh, but we just found out that this is different. Or, we train everyone to do the lymph drainage in these particular conditions to these specific nodal groups. And actually, when we do imaging with dye on humans, we're finding that the lymph system doesn't actually reroute to those nodal groups. So, you could continue including them, but maybe if you were short on time, you could also skip them. So it's an interesting time to be a lymph drainage therapist because they have better ways to image the lymph system. And so we're actually like learning new things, which is exciting. It's nice to know that the system is not, we don't know all of the mysteries yet.
I was just going to say it's really mysterious. Do you perceive a spiritual component of the lymphatic system?
This is a tricky question because it's going to out me as something that I don't know if I want to be known in the community as. So I am a skeptical believer in almost everything in my life. In my personal life, I'm very open to all sorts of things that other people would roll their eyes at and be like, really? But in my professional life, I try to be very careful in my languaging in the treatment room and how I approach things. So I sort of approach my hands-on work fairly clinically. Well, also I hope that, it feels like when people are receiving the work, it doesn't feel like I'm being cold and clinical and scientific. I don't think of the work I do as energetic or spiritual. I think of the work as I do as very clinical, but sometimes I feel things in session or people are like, you're doing energy work right now. And I'm like, I'm not, I'm just,
Stop.
I'm being very intentional and present. And I think there's really like a deep power just in that, in being very present and intentional with people that we don't often encounter in day-to-day life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you can feel it when you're on your table. Me as a client have felt that. You're all in 150%, feel very cared for, which is amazing.
And it's a really for me as a practitioner, sometimes because it's a fluid system, I have to sometimes get back in my body when I'm doing the sessions as well. Cause it's you get this hard to describe, but you kind of get pulled into the fluid system of the body and you get a little.
Do you become like seaweed?
I become a little lightheaded sometimes. And I have to be like.
I was just trying to capture the motion your body was making.
Yeah, that was a little.
It was like seaweed
moving
sort of
through the waters of the body.
Yeah, very fluid.
Yes.
All right. So how would you describe the lymphatic drainage massage technique? Because it's different than typical massage.
Yeah. So typically it's very gentle. A large portion of the lymphatic system is in the superficial lymphatics, which actually sit in the subcu fat layer below the skin, but above the fascia of the muscles. And so it's a light touch technique because I'm not sinking down to the muscular level, which I think is often surprising for folks. They expect something deeper and they're like, oh, that doesn't feel anything like a massage. And it's like, yeah, that's the whole point of it. And the scientific rationale for that is that each lymph capillary has these single-celled walls with these anchoring filaments that kind of attach to the walls and then go out into the surrounding tissue. And so when you catch the tissue and create a stretch, you actually open the walls of the lymph capillaries. And so the idea of the gentle skin stretching of the manual lymph drainage is that you're increasing fluid return into those superficial lymph capillaries to just really like make a simple question more complicated.
Good job.
But that is what is happening on the cellular is why the strokes are so gentle. I do some deeper techniques as well, especially in the abdominal area. One of the curriculums I've studied through the Chickley Institute does a lot of work around clearing through the abdomen and those deeper lymphatics. So there are some deeper techniques, but they're still not like what you would consider a deep technique in massage.
It's still incredibly relaxing.
It is. And it's I think because it's very repetitious and very sort of rhythmic, you do this number of strokes in each area. And so it's very predictable for the nervous system. So people just completely go into this parasympathetic zoned out state because their body is not like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Is she suddenly going to go to my feet? Like, do I have to move? It's very easy to predict, okay, I know exactly where her hands are moving next. And so the whole body can just sort of like relax and sink into the treatment. So even if nothing else, it's a beautiful way to relax without worrying about deep pressure.
How would you describe the benefits of this type of massage? Do you recommend this type of massage for just people who are in the midst of cancer treatment or post-cancer treatment?
Oh, no, definitely not. And actually, I think this is one misperception that sometimes persists that I feel like I'm often addressing with people is when someone is actually going through active cancer treatment, like chemotherapy, I'm actually really careful about if and when I do lymph drainage with them. It can increase some of the circulation and absorption of some drugs. And so certainly if someone is on a very specific treatment plan, I don't want to change the way the body absorbs or moves that through their body. Sometimes people are referred directly to me from their doctor or their PT because they need fluid moved in order to move on to the next part of their treatment. But it tends to be more very specific, like I've had surgery, I have a great deal of swelling or pain, or I have no range of motion in my shoulder, and I need to get that so that I can move on. And that would be a place where I would be doing manual lymph drainage with someone going through, like right in the middle of cancer treatment. Post-cancer treatment, it tends to be more focused again on helping with scar healing, helping with fluid accumulation, helping with conditions that can occur after radiation or lymph node removal. So yeah, I think your original question, now that my brain has galloped way out into the weeds, I think that your original question was around if this is something that just average people could get as well and not just something that's supportive around cancer. And definitely, I feel like I have a lot of people who come and see me just for sort of tune-up sessions, they call them, where I'll just check in, do a full body lymph drainage session. If I find an area that feels like the lymph system is doing funky clearing, or it feels, I call it boggy. I don't think that's an energetic term. It literally, the tissue feels cooler and thicker and slightly congested compared to surrounding areas if there's a little bit of a very mild fluid accumulation there. And I'll just clear everywhere and then tell them what I found. Sometimes it's good, if people are doing their own self-care, it's encouragement to like, spend a little more time in this area, or maybe someone's using a rebounder and it inspires them to use the rebounder more frequently, or, reminds them of the importance of exercise when possible, because the lymph system does rely a lot on joint movement and muscle pump and respiration for fluid return.
No, it makes perfect sense. So, I go to you. It just seems intuitively like a good thing to do.
Yeah. I feel like when people are coming to me for those sort of like non-cancer related lymphatic care, if we want to just sort of put it under that big umbrella, oftentimes there are people who just have a chronic health complaint that their doctor doesn't take seriously, or it's not really life altering, but it's sort of a day-to-day annoyance, maybe some chronic sinus congestion or brain fog. It seems very helpful for brain fog. I've had some really good luck with people with sluggish guts, where they just have sort of chronic constipation and they've been checked out and everyone is just like, we don't know whether it's the relaxation aspect of it in combination with the abdominal work, but it seems very relaxing for people. It seems helpful for sleep issues. Again, it's like hard to tease out exactly what is causing the benefit, but if it helps, it helps. Sometimes I tell people I don't know why it's helping you, but I'm really glad it is. And that's okay. I mean, that's being a massage therapist is like that all the time anyway. Like, I'm going to try to make you feel listened to and heard and safe on my table. And
your passion is very clear. It's like you're really into what you do. I mean, it seems like you put a tremendous amount of yourself into each session and also into your training too. You seem to do a lot of training around this to keep up on the techniques.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely a lymph nerd, so it's like the idea that there might be something out there about the lymph system that I don't know about really makes me a little crazy. So I try to take as much training as possible. I love medicine, the science of it. I love learning about the body. I love learning about new research. I love knowing what surgeries people are getting when they go through cancer treatments or knee replacements or, other joint replacements and how it impacts the body. And then taking that information and thinking of, oh, this explains why people present after that particular surgery with this kind of swelling or this kind of scar tissue, and sort of allowing my brain then to guide my hands. I had one client that asked me, well, can't you just like, don't use your brain right now. Can you just like let your intuition guide you? But I can't remove that part of me. I feel like they're all working together to create a session. So I can't just remove my thinking brain from my hands-on brain. So yeah, I think that all the training I do, even if it seems really unrelated or really heady, brainy stuff that's a little bit out of my league, it's always helps me troubleshoot that like interesting lymphatic presentation, that person with persistent swelling that needs the really particular rerouting approach. I mean, it's always interesting. I've never yet had a boring session. And I don't expect to, because like everybody comes in with their own unique health history and their own unique story and their unique body. And it's fascinating to me to find out how can I sneak in, support the lymph system or, whatever body system I'm focused on if I'm doing regular massage as well, and then sort of sneak back out.
So what got you into massage to begin with? Why did you pursue this line of work?
Oh, yeah. So I was a veterinary technician, basically a veterinary nurse, but human nurses don't like it when we use the word nurse. I was a vet tech for 10 years. I was in my 20s. So I was doing emergency and critical care, loving the crazy rush of not knowing what was going to come in and the whole like high adrenaline of emergency. Now, like my whole body is like wants nothing to do with that. I want to be one-on-one in a quiet, dark room.
You don't want the intensity of that sense of urgency.
Oh, goodness, no. But that was what I did. And I reached a point, I was working at Angel Animal Hospital, which is one of the biggest, most well-known animal hospitals. It's in Jamaica Plain, down in Boston. And I was working overnights in the critical care unit, which is every bit as stressful as it sounds. I would go home and sleep during the day and I would dream about work and then I would go back to work. And it was just this repetition.
Super intense.
Yeah. And I just reached a point where I was good at what I did and I loved working with animals. But I felt like in order to continue, I needed to become emotionally hard. And that's just not possible for me. So I really had a lot of compassion fatigue, which I think is common in that field where you're kind of overworked and chronically exhausted. And
it's heartbreaking work too, I imagine.
Yeah, like you're not, people are like, oh, you get to go to work all day and play with puppies and kittens. And it's like, oh, I wish that's what I did. Like,
I don't know how someone would get play with puppies and kittens all day out of animal care trauma work.
Yeah. So I reached this point where I realized that I needed to leave the profession. So I was looking at the human healthcare profession, but wanted something that didn't involve needles, which really narrowed down my focus.
Why not needles?
Because you spend a lot of time in critical care in veterinary medicine, putting needles into animals that are already ill and suffering.
So no needles. Okay.
Yeah. No needles. I didn't want to put needles into anything again. So yeah, that kind of just left massage. And I'd like to say that I was a person who had gotten massages my whole life and really knew the benefit of massage, but I wasn't. I had never had a professional massage until I went to massage school, and it was as required as part of your application. You had to go get a massage.
So it was a process of elimination. That's pretty much what got you into massage to begin with?
Yeah. I mean, I think I had always been fascinated by massage therapists and thought, well, that seems like a pretty great career once you get past the whole touching people all day, which I actually don't mind at all. But sometimes I tell people what I do and you can see they get a little cringy inside.
Around touching people all day. Wow, I never would have thought of that. Okay. Huh. It is what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, once I went to massage school, I kind of jokingly said, I'm going to go to massage school. I'm just going to like massage rich old ladies at a spa for the rest of my life, which sounds kind of terrible and light and superficial, which is not who I am. But I think probably my first or second week there, I saw there was a little notice on the board for an oncology massage internship at Boston Medical Center. And it was like, oh no, that's what I'm supposed to do. And that was pretty much my focus. I mean,
You just knew it when you saw that notice?
I just knew it. Viscerally, I just knew that that was what I was going to do. I mean, that's been my whole working life. You know, I knew I wanted to work in veterinary medicine from the time I was 5. And then when it became unsustainable emotionally, I obviously was drawn into massage and took that next step.
Do you feel like I found my thing, or do you feel like you're going to change careers again?
Oh, goodness, no. I plan on doing this till I retire and then maybe continuing on with a few clients that
are camping out in your front yard?
Yeah. I don't seek changing careers again. And I don't even like calling it a career feels weird to me because it's like, no, this is what I do and what I'm supposed to do.
It's your calling, your life's work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's really rewarding.
It is because it's probably the only job I've had where people they come in happy because they're like looking forward to this, like I'm here for my session, and then they leave even happier. And half the time people come in and you can tell that, you know, if they haven't had a lot of body work or massage and they just got referred here maybe by their physical therapist and they're a little uncertain, maybe they've just gone through a really difficult health journey, maybe some of the worst time of their life. And then to get to like listen to them and hear sort of where they're at and then tell them, here's where I think I can be of assistance. And then to have people fall asleep on the table. And to me, you know, people will apologize like, I'm so sorry I fell asleep. And I'm like, what an honor that you trusted me. I'm a stranger. You know, we've just met. We've maybe talked for 20 minutes. So what an honor that I can create a space where people can come in and feel so deeply relaxed and safe that they can fall asleep. I mean, maybe some of them are just exhausted, but at the same time, to be able to get out of that brain that the world has us in most of the time where we're constantly on the alert and needing to watch.
Yeah, need to be on guard. No, that is a very vulnerable state to be in, is to be in a state of sleep.
Yeah.
That says a lot. You're right, that they can feel comfortable enough to fall asleep. I'm always concerned about snoring. I would be embarrassed if I fell asleep and was snoring, and the poor massage therapist is it's like having to deal with that.
The one thing I will say about massage therapists and body workers is that we are some of the least judgmental people I know because you don't choose your clients for the most part. And so you welcome everybody on your table, literally everybody. You don't know who's going to walk through the door. People fall asleep, people pass gas, people snore, they drool, people apologize because they forgot to shave their legs. And I'm like, I'm not going to judge. I'm here for you. And this is your unique body and how wonderful that you're here. So hopefully that applies to most of the profession, but I think it really does, that most massage therapists are not judgmental and really do enjoy working with all different sorts of people, even those who snore. It really doesn't matter.
All right. So Hannah has just spoken for the massage therapists out there. If you disagree with her, we'll put her link in the show notes so you can contact her and give her some shit. No, it would make sense that you would have to be kind of in that non-judgmental state to be able to do your work. Yeah, because it would come through in your hands, I would think. Somebody would feel, yeah, they would not feel safe. It would translate in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst that's ever happened is because I get into sort of, I get really into my hands when I'm working. And so I'm just like, I'm so focused and the room is quiet. And sometimes if someone wakes themselves up with that little like snore, where
Yeah.
that little noise, that will startle me sometimes. And I have had moments where I jumped a little. Fortunately, I'm not a like squeaker, I don't shriek, but there have been moments where the client startled me because I was so focused
Yeah.
on what I was doing. Yes. And then they let out a little snort that sometimes I have jumped because of that. But it was not from a place of judgment. It was just because I was so focused on what I was doing.
Yeah, imagine you can get into a hypnotic state or a bit of an altered state when you're doing the work.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, one funny, completely unrelated story to that is I was working in a spa once and the iPod got stuck on repeat. So it was just playing the same song over and over and over again. But it took me like 40 minutes before I realized, because I was just so focused on the session, I tend to just tune out the music. And I finally like realized, I think I've heard that song before.
The longest song in the history of music.
Yeah, exactly. And I had to apologize to the client because I think that maybe she noticed it before I did, but didn't know how to say, like maybe that's my soundtrack.
She must really like that song. So, chickens.
Oh, chickens, my other passion.
Yes. Tell me about the chickens.
Oh my gosh. So when I moved back to Vermont, one of my goals when I was looking at houses to buy was I wanted to have chickens. So I actually asked the realtor, like, please don't show me any houses that are in neighborhoods that don't allow chickens, because that's a deal breaker for me, which is probably not something that she had heard before. But that was very important to me. The humorous thing is that my spouse is very terrified of birds. Like my fear of spiders is equally matched by her fear of chickens and flying things that move unpredictably. I think based off of being a child and watching Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
Really, it had that much of an impact on her.
Definitely. So it took me 5 years to talk her into letting me have chickens.
Oh, and you're just waiting. How about now? Can we have chickens now?
I'm just waiting. I have this like perfect little woodshed on my property that's just sitting empty, just a perfect little woodshed that could be converted into a chicken coop. And so finally, one of my dear friends who knows me very well said, I just want you to know that I've just ordered baby chicks and I got you a bunch for your birthday. So, they'll be ready to show up at your house in July. So you might want to get the chicken coop ready.
So it wasn't your fault.
It wasn't my fault.
It was a gift, and you can't turn down a gift.
No, especially not a gift that I've been secretly dying for years.
And your friend probably had no idea. It was just a lucky guess that you had been wanting chickens forever.
Oh, I think she knew.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to help you out. So how did your partner handle the news that chickens were coming?
Well, I mean, I think we have a good enough relationship that we are recognizing that sometimes things are inevitable.
The chickens are inevitable.
Yes, that 5 years of saying no, eventually it was going to happen. So yeah, my sister came over with her husband one day and we completely turned the woodshed into a chicken coop, and the chickens showed up and they have just been a constant source of delight for 3 years now.
So what is it about chickens?
If you just go down and you sit and you watch chickens, like they're so meditative.
They meditate or you meditate?
It's like a meditative practice watching them.
Okay. I was going to say, because I don't know about chickens being good meditators.
Yeah, they just, they don't communicate in human language. So who knows? They may have like reached transcendent states that we're not aware of.
No, that's very true.
I think you're really like downplaying the depth of chicken spiritual life, Wendy.
I think you're absolutely right. I was being really judgy right now and assuming that chickens don't have a deep spiritual meditative life.
Right.
They don't have a contemplative experience being a chicken.
Won't you feel foolish when you experience life as a chicken?
Yeah. I already feel foolish right now, though that's a pretty common experience of mine anyway. All right, so they're really meditative. You're watching them.
Yeah, they They scratch around, they find little treats, they call each other over to share treats. They have this very like quiet but definitive order where there's always everyone knows exactly who's above them in the chicken pecking order and who's below them. And so in a coop that has lots of environmental enrichment and lots of space, you don't see it in action very often because they don't tend to gang up on each other. But they'll let each other know, little body language, the occasional peck. Yeah, they're just really lovely. And I have one chicken that she loves to be held. She'll come and peck my leg until I pick her up, and then she'll just snuggle in and just hang out with me. And it just feels like, again, like such an honor that this chicken friend has chosen to hang out with me. I'm not, she has the option of foraging for bugs, and instead she's sitting on my lap.
That's absolutely adorable. It is. It's really adorable that a chicken wants to be held. Pick me up. It's wicked cute.
Yeah, and that's not every chicken.
No.
Like people, I think that I have special chickens. I also have a chicken who every time I have to pick her up for a medical reason will poop on me. So, because she's just that terrified of being handled by humans. She's perfectly peaceable and fine living with me and coexisting, but like, don't pick her up unless you have to. So, I have the range of overly friendly, human-like chicken and the fear pooper.
the whole spectrum of chicken experience. But you seem to have relationships with your chicken friends.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, they all have names and personalities. I am a big Doctor Who fan. So they all are named after Doctor Who companions, which is funny because my favorite chicken is named Rose. So people immediately assume I'm going to go down a Golden Girls avenue, which is not a show I have actually ever watched.
I wouldn't have gone there, really. I know of Rose because you posted these amazing photographs on your Facebook page of your chicken friends. You frequently will refer to Rose, the little beauty.
She is a stunning hen.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, Golden Girl? No, wouldn't have gone there.
Yeah.
I actually never watched the Golden Girls.
Me neither.
They remind me of chickens. Just kidding.
So, but yeah, I mean, the newest drama on the chicken front is that in a moment of pandemic-induced weakness, I allowed my broody hen to sit on a couple fertilized eggs from my sister's coop. So I had these two baby chicks hatch out, and one of them I'm fairly certain is a rooster. So that will make for interesting times to come.
Okay, so how does that work then? You have a rooster. So typically roosters, you got to keep them separate.
You don't have to keep them separate, but they go through this period of hormonal obnoxiousness. And many roosters don't survive that period.
Good thing humans don't do that.
I know, it's completely unique to chickens, definitely. So yeah, I think it's more I'm handling them often and hoping that he is a kind and gentle rooster and can stay and coexist fine with my hens. That's my current plan. I do have a backup plan of a secondary home if it doesn't work out, but my plan is
okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
And of course, I named the two babies after Rory and Amy, which are two Doctor Who characters, and of course, Rory appears to be a hen and Amy is the rooster. But
I think that's perfect.
I'm totally fine with having a rooster named Amy.
I actually kind of love it.
Yeah, she's going to be a stunning rooster. So, and she seems very, her personality is sort of timid and subservient currently. So I think that's a good sign in a rooster that they're not immediately obnoxious.
No, that seems like a very good sign. And so what have these chicken relationships added to your life?
Well, they definitely made me slow down because I often find I'll run down there just to check on them and make sure they have food. And then before I know it, a half hour's passed and I've just been sitting in the chicken coop watching them move about through their day. So they just really bring me a lot of delight and joy. Yeah. And they lay eggs.
And eggs.
So,
and eggs.
Yeah, I would say there's also I wouldn't really call it a free source of food because I think that the cost benefit analysis would show that I put far more money into buying them organic chicken feed and special treats and growing them kale than actually they return to me. And they will live with me forever. I mean, these are not chickens. Someone said to me, well, what happens when they stop laying? And I'm like, nothing. Like,
Then they stop laying.
yeah, I then just have a lot of old chickens that are still great fun to hang out with and great chicken friends.
And then they move into Golden Girl territory.
Exactly. They become the golden girls.
Yes.
Yes.
I see a new TV series.
It's just a live feed of Hannah's chicken coop.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Well, two different sides of Hannah Rohloff, the lymph nerd side, which is brilliant, and then the chicken nerd side of Hannah, which is equally brilliant and very sweet. Man, I hope the information that you shared about the lymphatic system will be beneficial to folks. I mean, it's really important. It's a really important system, and it gets ignored, probably because it's so mysterious, and maybe it just doesn't bring attention to itself because it's normally functioning fine until it's not. And then we need someone like you to help us out.
An unlikely heroine.
Yeah. So are you taking on folks these days? What's the state of your practice, especially in the midst of this pandemic?
Yeah, so I'm currently only taking people with a referral, and I'm kind of open-ended about that. It can be a referral from your doctor, from your PT, from another health provider. So at the moment, I'm mostly seeing folks who are either going through cancer treatment or who have a lymphatic or suspected lymphatic issue. So I am still taking people, just not for if you just want a really great massage. Don't contact me unless you want a recommendation.
That seems pretty clear. Okay. And what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, I have a website, tesseramassage.com is probably the best way. There's a contact form there, but also my phone number and email address. I do have an online booking system, but I currently have it password protected so that folks do still have to speak to me first to see if they're a good candidate for what I offer.
All right. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. I'm glad we were finally able to make it work.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy.
All right, so my two big takeaways from this conversation: the lymphatic system is crazy mysterious, and chickens are sorely misunderstood. If you'd like to connect with Hannah, I've included a link to her website, tesseramassage.com, in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Thanks for letting your friends know about Lucid Cafe. This podcast truly has the best listeners in the history of podcasting. It's a fact. Until next time.